Hello Algebra 2 students. This is going to be a brief video explaining how to do the problems on lesson 73, which is titled More on Radical Denominators. So last time we were in class together, we looked at these. We talked about how we don't like the square roots in the denominator of our expression. And so we're going to do something called rationalize this denominator. And we talked before about the way to do that would be to multiply this by its conjugate. And the conjugate looks exactly the same, except the sign in the middle is the opposite. So I'm going to throw some parentheses down around that. I'm going to write down the conjugate, which would be 2 plus 3 root 3. In order to keep the fraction equal, I have to multiply the numerator by the same. So here we go, and we have a binomial times a binomial, so we are going to FOIL this first, outer, inner, last. And it doesn't matter if you do the numerator first or the denominator. So let's start with the numerator. 4 times 2, let me switch pens, is going to be 8. The outer, 4 times 3 root 3. The 4 and the 3 are regular whole numbers. That's what multiplies. This number in the radical, this is sort of like 3x. So 4 times 3x would be 12x, right? So we're going to have 12 root 3. That's how we multiply radical numbers. That's the outer. Now the I for the inner, 2 times the square root of 3 would be 2 root 3. And then the last, square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just a regular 3, times this would be 9. Does that make sense to you? Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just a 3, because it would be the square root of 9, which is just a regular 3, but then because of this guy, 3 times 3 is 9. Now, since we're here, shall we, we'll come back and simplify this in a minute. Let's go ahead and do the denominator. And this is where our square root should fall out. So first, we're FOILing here first, 2 times 2, which is 4. The outer would be 2 times 3 root 2, which would be a plus 6 square root of 3. And the inner would be the same, but a negative. 3 times 2 is 6, square root of 3. So you can see how those are going to cancel. And as we do more and more of these, you might not even write those down. Then the last in our FOIL, we have a negative times a positive, which would be a negative. We multiply the front numbers, 3 times 3, which would be 9. And we multiply the radical numbers. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is another 3. I'm just going to multiply it and put it down like that. All right, let's go up in the numerator and let's simplify this. Our whole numbers, 8 plus 9, that would be 17. We have 12 square roots of 3 plus 2 square roots of 3. Again, if you think of this as something like an x, we'd have 12x plus 2x, which would be 14x. Those are like terms. So 14 root 3. Then in the denominator, we have 4 minus 27. I think that's a negative 23. I hope I've got that right. And boom, we're done. That's it. We can't do any more. Can't simplify anymore. That's done. All right. And then scooting across to example 3, because it is the hardest one. Why is it hard? It's not any different really than what we did before, except we've got lots and lots of radicals here. Always look at the denominator. The denominator, we're going to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. So this is going to be multiplied by 3 root 3 plus 2 root 2. Whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do to the top. And then now we're going to FOIL. Okay, let me do this. we'll do the top because it's going to be a little bit harder. 3 root 12 times 3 root 3. We take the front end 3's and we multiply those. We get a 9. Square root of 12 times square root of 3 is the square root of 36, which can be simplified. We'll come back and do that in a minute. Foiling again, outer. 3 times 2 is 6. Square root of 12 times square root of 2 would be the square root of 24. Inner, it's going to be a negative. 2 times 3, 6. Square root of 3 times square root of 3, which is just 3. I'll write it like that for now. And then the last, negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 3 times square root of 2 would be the square root of 6. Hopefully you've done that kind of multiplication before with radicals. Now let's go ahead and do the denominators. This one will be a little bit easier. Easier because the outer and the inner are going to cancel out. So 3 root 3 times 3 root 3 would be 9 times the square root of 9. So it'd be 9 times 3 because the square root of 9 is 3. The outer and the inner are going to cancel. I'm not even going to write them down. You may if you like. And then the last, a positive and a negative is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. And notice we no longer have any radicals in the denominator, which is what we were hoping for. Okay, I'm just going to simplify this. This is 27 minus 8. So that's going to be 19 on the bottom. And on the top, we knew that this was a 6, right? Square root of 36 is 6. So 9 times 6 would be 54. Now 24 can be factored into 4 times 6. I'm assuming that you have done this kind of simplification before. So that turns into 2 root 6. So this 6 times this 2 gives us 12. And then we have square root of 6. 6 times 3, 18. And then minus 4 root 6. So it looks like we have some more cleaning up to do here. 54 minus 18. I think that is 36. Yep, 36. So I did 54 minus 18. I got 36. And these are like terms that we can combine together. 12 root 6 minus 4 root 6 leaves us with 8 root 6. And this is all over 19. And that would be our final answer. If you have questions about any of the steps that we had to use here, we can look at that on February 13th when I come back. All right, good luck.